friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you guys 5 tips on how to build an effective TBR that will help you read more. I have a confession. I didn't really have a TBR or even entertain the idea of building a TBR until last year. But what ended up happening was me not knowing how to utilize my TBR. So I ended up reading a lot of items outside of my TBR, and the items that were on my TBR was like half touch at the end of the year. So I really didn't know how to use my TBR until recently. I did something different in January, and that helped me read so much more. So I want to share those tips with you guys on how to build a TBR that actually help you read. First tip that I have for building your effective TBR is to have more than one list for your reading materials. I would establish 3 containers. First container is your reserve or your bank. This is anything that you would ever entertain an idea of reading in the future, anything that has caught your eye, anything that you do not want to lose sight of. It can be like fic that you have heard everybody talking about but you haven't had the time to. It can even be like a work in progress or a series of books that you're waiting to finish before you start. Literally, it's like a no-brainer or no thinking type of list that you can just pile items on top of item without the guilt of it ever getting unmanageable. The second container is the bulk of the video for today, is your TBR. This should be a very curated fic, very manageable list of items that you want to read right now. I will talk more about what item to put on this TBR later on in this video, so don't exit out of my video, okay? Last container that we have is a current read container. This can be anything that you are currently reading, that you have started and is in the middle of. I personally do not use this container very often because I'm the type of person that would finish out an item before I move on to the next. But if you are a person who really like to read in parallel, or if you want to take a pause and come back to that later on, then utilize this current read container to mark that you have already progressed through a little bit of this fic or this book and you would like to come back to it later on. Now that we have talked about establishing the containers, let's talk about the meat and the potato of the video for today. The first tip that I have for building an effective TBR is put exactly what you want to read right now on your TBR list. Your taste can be different from time to time, so focus on what you want to read right now. And if there is even a small little ick that hold you back on starting a book or a fic, then do not put it on. And the ick can be something very small, like if it's even a tag, if it's like not a happy ending and you are really looking for a happy ending right now, if it's even a character that you really don't want to read right now, or if it's even like too long for you to start right now and you don't have time or you don't feel like starting it, do not put it on. You can always keep that item on your reserve, on your bank. The bottom line is, no matter how small the ick is, just skip it because you will not read it. It will stay on your TBR without being touched. Now, another tip to really narrow down on what you really want to read right now is to do a swatch. And a swatch is reading the first couple of chapters or even like the first couple of paragraphs only. This is not something that I do very often, but I think that it can be very helpful to really find out what to put on your TBR. The next tip that I have is choose a variety of items to put on your TBR. This sounds a little bit counteractive with the first tip that I give, but it is kind of like an art for balancing between putting too much on your TBR that it will make you indecisive and not putting enough that you don't have enough options to choose from. Personally, I like to put a variety of things on my TBR because I'm a really moody reader. For example, this past month I just finished a dramione piece that was really good and it kind of lingers on my mind. I don't really want to start another dramione or another longer piece of work because I still need time to decompose the last dramione that I read. So I would go to a Satsugu one-shot, and after I finish the one-shot I go to sleep feeling fuzzed very good because I read Satsugu Fluff. You guys already know my bedtime one-shot story. And secondly, I feel really accomplished because I read for 15 minutes before going to bed instead of mindlessly scrolling on my phone. The goal here is to read more, so if having a variety of options is what helps you read more, then put a variety of options. If you are someone who knows that you want to read wartime story right now and only wartime story, then curate your fic to whatever your heart desire at that time, okay? The next tip is not related to building a TBR, but I want to stress that it is very okay to do not finish a book or do not finish a story. What we call in short is DNF. There is no reason for you to be miserable when you can be reading something else. If you really wanted to give that story or that book a chance, then you can always put it into your current read folder to keep an eye out on it. The goal here is to read more, so do not force yourself to read something that you don't like. The last tip that I have for this video, I know this video is very short because I want to give back time to you guys to read, okay? The last tip is revisit or reshuffle your TBR as often as you wish. If you have ever looked at your TBR and feel like, oh my god, I don't want to read anything on this TBR anymore, then it's time for you to shop your reserve. And it is also totally okay to put items on your TBR back to your reserve. If you still feel like I want to read this in the future, then you can hoard it a little bit more. But it is totally okay to like swatch them between your containers. And it is also totally okay to read straight from your reserve. If you go into your reserve and you find a piece of work that catches your eye that you really want to read right now, then read straight from it. If there's anything that makes you want to read, no matter if it's on your TBR, if it's on your current read container, if it's in your reserve, or if it's just something that you saw on the internet and you like really want to read right now, go ahead and read it. The goal here is to read more, not to build a perfect TBR. You should utilize your TBR to achieve your reading goal instead of getting sidetracked on like putting everything perfect thing on your TBR, curated a list of things, and never actually use your TBR to read any of those items. And the less time you ponder on what to read is the more time you can spend actually reading. Those are all the tips that I use in January to really read more. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free to put it down in the comment below. I hope you guys have a good time hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. I think I'll tell you guys what I read in January because I feel like all the work that I read in January are amazing. So see you guys in the next video, okay? Bye!